Have you ever felt that something inside you is silently fading, as if a fire that once burned brightly is now dimmed by invisible hands? You follow the rules, do what's expected, stay within the lines, and yet a strange emptiness lingers. A quiet voice whispers, "This isn't who I really am." But you silence it because society taught you to obey, to be humble, to shrink. But what if I told you that this very morality you were taught to follow is the real illusion? Today, you're about to discover a forbidden truth, one that's been hidden in plain sight, a truth that shakes the foundations of what we call right and wrong. Nietzsche, the philosopher of shadows and fire, revealed that morality, as we know it, isn't a divine truth. It's a social invention, a system built not to awaken you but to contain you. Yes, the very thing you were taught would save your soul might be the same thing suffocating your greatness. This video will take you deep into the mystical layers of existence, beyond the veil of obedience, beyond the inherited scripts, to reveal the real reason why so many feel lost, disconnected, and afraid of their own power. We'll uncover why ambition became a sin, why brilliance is feared, and how spiritual expansion was replaced by guilt and shame. This is more than philosophy. This is a key to your liberation, your reconnection with the universe, your soul's rebellion against the silence. But I must warn you, once you see this truth, you can't unsee it. This isn't for the faint of heart. It's for the seekers, the misfits, the ones who know deep down that their life was meant for more than quiet submission. If you feel that call, stay with me until the end, because what you'll uncover here might just be the beginning of your true awakening. And before we begin, a quick reminder. Many of you who watch our content still haven't subscribed. If these truths stir something in your spirit, if they feel like echoes of something your soul already knows, subscribe now to Celestial Truths. Join us on this path of remembrance, because today we're not just exploring philosophy, we're reclaiming your essence. There are invisible walls we walk past every day, not realizing they were built inside our minds long before we had the chance to question them. Nietzsche, in his sharp yet mystical wisdom, whispered to those who dared to listen. The dominant morality, especially the one shaped by religious tradition, is not truth. It is control. What many call virtue he saw as a beautiful cage. Humility, obedience, guilt. They're praised not to elevate the soul, but to tame it. These values, masked as spiritual teachings, often pull us away from the raw, untamed power of our true essence. And if you've ever felt like your inner fire was too much for the world to handle, maybe, just maybe, you've already brushed against this illusion. In the cosmic dance between conformity and authenticity, many choose the quieter rhythm, afraid to disturb the harmony. But what if that harmony is nothing more than the music of submission? The universe doesn't whisper in equal notes. It sings in wild crescendos and silent abysses, calling the soul to rise beyond the accepted norm. Nietzsche knew this. He saw how society quietly molds individuals to believe that greatness is arrogance, that strength is a sin, and thus the mystic seeker, the one who dares to expand, becomes the outsider, punished for embracing their light. But in the language of spirituality, suppression of the self is the ultimate betrayal. When one silences their inner voice to fit the expectations of a world addicted to comfort and sameness, something precious begins to wither. The soul, like a star, is meant to shine, not flicker quietly in the background of another's story. Nietzsche wasn't just rebelling against rules, he was urging us to awaken from a spell, the spell of goodness that strips us from our sacred fire. This isn't about chaos, it's about sovereignty, about remembering that your moral compass must be drawn from the truth of your experience, not inherited like a dusty heirloom. Take a moment now, pause. In your daily life, how often do you swallow your truth to seem nice, good, or acceptable? How often do you shrink your radiance to protect someone else's comfort? These are not small sacrifices. These are moments where the self bends, where the shadow expands, and where the connection with the universe dims. The more we repress our greatness under the guise of humility, the more distant we become from our inner universe, that sacred space where clarity, intuition, and symbolic purpose reside. This is where the inner work begins. by noticing the subtle agreements we make with a moral system that was never ours, through dreams that show us trapped in endless corridors, through writing down the moments we felt we betrayed ourselves just to be approved. These are the clues left by the self, urging us to wake up, to tear the veil of false virtue and embrace the mystery of our own unfolding. And as we do, a new vibration begins to echo, the call of individuation. And it is here, in this sacred tension, that we begin to uncover a deeper truth. In the hidden chambers of the human psyche, where ancient archetypes rest and the shadow waits to be seen, Nietzsche uncovered a truth many feared to face. The morality that governs society wasn't born from strength. It was born from weakness. He spoke of two paths, two worlds, one carved by the noble spirit, guided by self-affirmation and creativity, and the other forged in the dark womb of resentment. This second path, the morality of the slave, emerges when the powerless redefine the rules to survive, not by overcoming but by condemning those who rise. To understand this, imagine a soul burning with ambition, authenticity, and courage, qualities that, in a spiritually aligned universe, would be celebrated. But in a world shaped by wounded egos and quiet bitterness, that same soul becomes a threat. So what does the collective unconscious do? It flips the script. It calls courage arrogance, ambition greed, and authenticity selfishness. And through this subtle inversion, a new moral code is born, one that punishes the radiant and rewards the compliant. It is a morality of reaction, not creation, a code designed to level, not to elevate. This isn't merely philosophy, it's a living myth inside us. Every time we envy someone's success but pretend it's immoral, every time we secretly desire greatness but reject it as ego, we're participating in this ancient drama. The resentful moralist is an archetype that lives within the collective and often within our own shadow. Carl Jung would call this a projection. We reject in others what we've disowned in ourselves. But the universe, wise and persistent, keeps placing mirrors in our path until we see clearly, until we reclaim the light we once feared. The mystic knows resentment is not just an emotion, it's a force, a corrosive energy that blocks spiritual flow and disconnects us from the divine rhythm of expansion. When we bury our longing for greatness under layers of moral justification, we don't become humble, we become fragmented. Our essence begins to ache. The universe doesn't shame expansion, it demands it. Spirituality, when stripped of illusion, is not about shrinking, it's about becoming fully who you are, without guilt, without asking for permission. So how do we heal this wound? First, by observing. Notice the thoughts that rise when someone shines. Journal them. Reflect. Are they rooted in inspiration or in judgment? Then, with compassion, begin to retrieve the parts of yourself you once silenced to belong. Use dreams, symbols, and synchronicities to guide you. The resentment that shaped collective morality can only dissolve when we choose to live as creators, not as critics. And in doing so, a doorway opens to a deeper realization. There's a silent poison that drips into the soul, slowly, subtly, and often unnoticed. It doesn't come with rage or thunder. It whispers through comparison, bitterness, and hidden sorrow. Nietzsche called it ressentiment, a quiet force that builds when one suppresses their desire to grow and instead turns their gaze outward to blame, criticize, and diminish. It's the energy of the unseen wound, the ache of the unrealized self, and when this resentment becomes a lifestyle, it begins to erode the foundation of spiritual development, disconnecting us from our own universe within. Picture a man who watches others ascend while convincing himself they must have cheated, betrayed, or pretended. He doesn't chase his own calling. He critiques the flight of others. In the archetypal landscape, this is Salieri, not as a villain but as a mirror. In his silent despair, he doesn't just envy Mozart's genius. He curses the universe for daring to bestow brilliance on someone else. Likewise, Dostoevsky's underground man wanders in existential fog, too proud to admit his pain, too bitter to break free. These characters live within all of us, as symbols of a psyche trapped in a loop, knowing it could evolve, but choosing to resent instead. And the cost, it's high. Growth becomes a threat, not a goal. Self-expression becomes shameful. Every step toward individuality feels like betrayal. This is where many seekers abandon their path, mistaking spiritual stillness for virtue when, in truth, they've merely been paralyzed by unspoken envy. The energy that could have fueled transformation becomes stagnation. In the eyes of the universe, this is not neutrality, it's suppression. And where suppression lives, suffering follows. The mystic understands, what isn't transformed will be transmitted, often through subtle judgment or passive despair. To recognize this within oneself takes radical honesty. Begin with silence, not the silence of repression, but the sacred, kind, the one that emerges in meditation, in dreams, in symbolic writing. Ask, where in my life am I quietly resenting those who dare? The answer won't shout. It will whisper through discomfort, through the moments you avoid your own reflection. But don't look away. That discomfort is the doorway. That's the universe inviting you back into alignment, into spiritual responsibility. Because every time you heal a fragment of resentment, you reclaim a piece of your soul. And as you do, the grip of bitterness loosens. A space opens for inspiration, not judgment. You begin to celebrate the light in others, because it no longer threatens you, it reflects you. This is how you know the poison is fading. The spiritual path isn't about pretending to be pure, it's about facing the shadow with courage. And when resentment dissolves, what remains is clarity, energy, and the sacred drive to rise, which leads us to the hidden current beneath all true transformation. Beneath the surface of every soul lies a fire, ancient, untamed, and relentless. Nietzsche named it the will to power, but this is not the power that conquers others. No, it's the sacred impulse to expand, to become, to exceed one's former self. It is the heartbeat of the universe inside you, urging you to stretch beyond the inherited scripts, to rise from the ashes of conformity. This force is neither cruel nor egoistic. It is life itself, pulsing through the cosmos, through your breath, through the very dreams that refuse to die. In spiritual terms, it is the echo of your purpose, the mystical surge of individuation calling from within. This inner power is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It stirs gently at first, through discontent, through longing, through a sense that something more is possible. But when ignored, when suffocated under the weight of societal morality, it twists inward. What was once drive becomes despair. What was once clarity becomes apathy. And this is no accident. The dominant moral systems, those born from fear and resentment, are designed to contain this force, because a soul fully awakened is impossible to control. It listens not to guilt, but to the whisper of the infinite. Carl Jung saw this too. In his view, the will to power wasn't separate from the self. It was the self reaching toward wholeness, not through domination, but through integration. When we deny this instinctual force, we fragment. We shrink into roles, personas, expectations. But when we embrace it, through creative action, bold truth, or mystical surrender, we begin to align with our deeper universe. That's when synchronicities emerge, when symbols find us, when life responds to our movement. Because we're no longer waiting for permission, we're responding to a cosmic rhythm. So how do we awaken this force in our daily lives? Begin by noticing where you feel alive. What stirs you? What challenges you to grow, even if it scares you? Follow those threads. Track the moments. When you feel pulled to speak your truth, to step into the unknown, to create something that has never existed before. These are not whims. They are sacred signals, the universe urging you to unfold. And when you honor them, even in small ways, you unlock energy that was trapped beneath layers of moral inhibition. And this, perhaps, is the greatest act of spiritual rebellion, to live as if your becoming matters, to refuse the script that says power must be external, and instead embody it as a quiet, steady devotion to your evolution. The will to power is not a weapon, it is a flame, and when lit, it becomes the guide through the darkness of conditioned morality. From here, we begin to see that what we called truth may not be truth at all. Many believe that morality descends from some sacred mountaintop, etched in stone by invisible hands. But Nietzsche, with the clarity of one who listens to the silence between the stars, revealed otherwise. Morality is not eternal. It is historical, shaped by time, power, and convenience. What a society calls right is often what once served the ruling class, politically, religiously, socially. And what is praised today may be condemned tomorrow. In this ever-shifting terrain, the mystic must ask, if morality changes with the winds of history, can it ever be the compass of the soul? To awaken is to question the very fabric of what you were taught to believe. Why is ambition seen as dangerous? Why is silence mistaken for virtue? These aren't moral truths. They are echoes of old systems fossilized in culture, systems that feared the independent spirit, the one who speaks with the voice of the universe rather than the choir of conformity. In Nietzsche's vision, morality isn't a guiding light. It's often a veil that hides the deeper truths of who we are and who we could become if unchained from collective fear. This perspective doesn't invite chaos. It invites responsibility. True spirituality doesn't hide behind rules. It asks for discernment, the ability to look inward and listen to the symbolic language of dreams, synchronicities, and inner knowing. When you realize that morality is context, not cosmos, you begin to walk a different path, one not based on inherited codes but on conscious choice, on alignment with your essence. And this kind of path isn't found in books. It's revealed in quiet moments of intuitive clarity, in the way the universe speaks through your experience. Consider this. What rules are you still following, not because they resonate, but because you fear judgment? What desires have you denied under the mask of being good? In every seeker's journey, there comes a point when the soul begins to rebel, not in violence, but in remembrance. The remembrance that truth is not given, it is uncovered, through self-inquiry, through the courage to question, through the mystical process of peeling away what was never yours to begin with. As these illusions fall away, what remains is not lawlessness but authenticity, a deeper morality, not dictated from above but emerging from within. And it is here, in this space of spiritual clarity, that the seeker begins to understand the real nature of control, not as something external alone, but as a mechanism embedded within the very structures we were told to trust. Beneath the polished surface of moral discourse lies a shadow, one rarely acknowledged, yet deeply influential. Nietzsche, with his gaze fixed beyond appearances, recognized what many sense but cannot name. Morality is often not about virtue, it's about control. Wrapped in noble language, moral codes can be used to suppress rather than uplift, to shame rather than guide. When the voice of morality is too loud, it often drowns out the voice of the self. And when society clings too tightly to what is right, it tends to silence what is real. The spiritual seeker must learn to distinguish between the two. In this subtle game of power, the moralist appears as protector, but often acts as a jailer. Their concern is rarely your evolution, it is your obedience. They wield moral codes like sacred weapons, enforcing standards they themselves barely understand, all while hiding their hunger to dominate behind a mask of righteousness. This is not virtue, it is performance. In the mystical journey, one learns that true wisdom whispers, it does not impose. The universe teaches through symbols, through synchronicities, through the quiet pull of intuition, not through shame. Carl Jung warned us about the perils of the persona, the mask we wear to gain acceptance. Society often rewards the persona that best fits its moral narrative, even if that mask smothers the soul underneath. And thus many live a lie without realizing it. They speak kindly but burn with bitterness. They serve others but secretly resent it. They follow the rules yet feel empty inside. This inner dissonance is not failure. It is a spiritual signal, a sign that the morality one obeys is not aligned with the universe within. To break free, one must reclaim their inner compass. This doesn't mean rejecting all moral frameworks. It means observing them, questioning them, testing them. Nietzsche's invitation was not to destroy meaning, but to discover it, authentically, from within. Begin by noticing when you feel guilt. Ask yourself, is this guilt the voice of my higher self, or the echo of someone else's fear? Is it guiding me toward wholeness or pulling me into conformity? The act of questioning is already a form of liberation, a sacred rebellion, a realignment with your own spiritual rhythm. And once this awareness takes root, something shifts. You begin to recognize manipulation disguised as morality. You see how entire systems are built, not to awaken the soul, but to sedate it. And in that recognition, a doorway opens to authenticity, to truth, and to a deeper understanding of why individuality has so often been feared. The journey from here demands courage, because it leads straight into the heart of a painful question. What happens to a world that punishes those who dare to shine? There's a quiet tragedy unfolding in the hearts of countless souls, a subtle erosion of brilliance masked by politeness and moral modesty. Nietzsche saw it with piercing clarity. The world does not merely ignore greatness, it often punishes it. And so, many learn to dim their light, not because they lack fire, but because they fear being burned for it. In a society that glorifies sameness and shames distinction, true spiritual power becomes taboo. The mystic knows. When the soul denies its own expansion to avoid rejection, a slow death begins, not of the body, but of the essence. Think of the gifted child who hides their talent to make others comfortable, the visionary who downplays their insights in fear of ridicule, the healer who silences their intuition because it's too much. These aren't just personal stories. They are universal metaphors, archetypes, echoes of a world where spiritual courage is mistaken for ego and humility becomes a disguise for fear. But the universe does not reward shrinkage. It conspires with those who dare. And repressing your greatness is not humility. It is self-abandonment. It is forgetting that you were designed to shine in alignment with the cosmos itself. Carl Jung would say this repression invites the shadow to grow. The unlived life doesn't disappear. It festers. It becomes envy, anxiety, disconnection, and eventually the individual feels as though life has no meaning, not because meaning doesn't exist, but because they've stepped away from it. Greatness isn't noise, it's resonance. When you deny your calling, the universe grows silent. Synchronicities fade. Symbols lose their glow. That silence is not peace, it is spiritual starvation. So how do we reverse this tragedy? First, by honoring the discomfort. That tension you feel when you're about to step into your power, that's sacred. Don't numb it, use it, let it guide you. Begin with small acts of reclamation. Speak your truth, express your vision, create without apology. Pay attention to your dreams. What are they trying to awaken in you? What symbols keep returning? The universe speaks through these signs, reminding you that you came here not to blend in, but to bloom. And as you reclaim your voice, something ancient stirs. Not arrogance, but alignment. Not dominance, but clarity. The great souls of history were not humble in the way society defines it. They were radiant, rooted, unapologetically alive. The time has come to remember that shrinking serves no one. And from this remembering, we prepare for the most sacred of revolutions, the destruction of false idols and the birth of new values. To philosophize with a hammer, what a strange, almost violent image. And yet, in Nietzsche's hands, the hammer was not an instrument of destruction, but of revelation. He did not swing it to shatter truth, but to tap gently on the hollow idols we inherited, to hear which ones ring false. To philosophize with a hammer is to become a spiritual archaeologist of the soul, tapping on every belief, every rule, every should, until we hear the echo of something real. And in that echo, the mystic finds the beginning of a new kind of truth, not imposed from the outside, but unearthed from within. In the modern world, illusions are often sophisticated. They come dressed in virtue, cloaked in logic, blessed by tradition. But no matter how refined they appear, if they stifle the self, if they block the expansion of your universe within, they must be questioned. Nietzsche's hammer is symbolic of spiritual courage, the willingness to break what no longer serves, and not just once but again and again, because spiritual awakening is not a destination, it's a cycle, deconstruction, awakening, rebirth. The phoenix, not the statue, is the true image of the soul. This kind of transformation is not comfortable, but it is sacred. You will lose parts of your identity, roles will crumble, some relationships will fall away, but in the ruins, something remarkable happens. Silence returns. The kind of silence Jung spoke of, the silence where the self emerges. It is in this space, beyond inherited beliefs, that true authenticity takes root. And authenticity, in the spiritual sense, is not simply being different. It is being whole. It is the mystical alignment between who you are, what you know, and how you live. So what does it mean to live this way? It means turning inward before looking outward. It means dreaming boldly, questioning softly, and listening deeply. It means walking through life with your eyes open to synchronicities, your heart open to mystery, and your mind free from dogma. It means journaling your symbolic visions, embracing your shadow without shame, and honoring your inner compass more than society's praise. This path isn't for the faint-hearted, but it is for the soul that remembers. And perhaps this is the final lesson. To philosophize with the hammer is not to destroy for destruction's sake, but to clear space for the sacred, to free the self from illusions so it can reunite with the universe's rhythm. This is where individuation begins, and from here the journey continues, not toward perfection, but toward wholeness. A wholeness shaped not by the world's morality, but by your own awakened essence. So now I ask you, what illusions are still holding you back from your true essence? What masks are you wearing just to be accepted by a world that fears authenticity? Nietzsche's forbidden philosophy isn't just a thought, it's a wake-up call, a summons to break the chains and reclaim your spiritual fire. Tell me in the comments, which part of this journey spoke most deeply to your soul? What beliefs are you now ready to question or even destroy in the name of your own becoming? If this video sparks something inside you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to Celestial Truths and activate the notifications so you never miss another message that might change everything. And now, your next step is right here. Click on the video that's about to appear on your screen. It dives even deeper into the mystical psychology of transformation and might just unlock the next door on your path. With reverence, this is Celestial Truths, and I'll see you in the next revelation.